Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Natural You. This is the start of season 4. Can you believe it? We started The Natural You 3 years ago, and after season 3, took a little break, several months, a bit longer than I expected, but here we are. The first guest I had on season 1 was Stu Bittman, and today we're going to have his partner in crime, Hilary Bittman, joining us. So stay tuned and we'll kick off. Welcome, everyone. This is The Natural You. I'm your host, Tim Wood. Today in the studio, we have the beautiful and wonderful Hilary Bittman, who's one of my mentors, and I'm super grateful that she's actually agreed to come on the podcast. She was a little bit hesitant, but coaxed her out, and here she is for everyone to see and hear. So welcome, Hilary.
Yes, you reeled me in, Tim, with your big heart. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us. Hilary, I'd like you to, just for those people who haven't met you, just tell us a little bit about your story. We know you live in South Lake Tahoe and you're married to Stu. Tell us a little bit how you guys met and how you ended up in Tahoe. I know you didn't grow up in a sort of very nature-oriented environment, so you live in such a beautiful place now. How did that all come about?
Well, both Stu and I were living in New York City in the heart of the jungle. And for me, I know it was killing me. I just knew if I stayed there, I would turn into a person I didn't like anymore. So I just got out of there and went the furthest west. I knew somebody, that was Utah. And Stu was doing his own journey and moved out to South Lake Tahoe, and the rest is history. So I moved out there with him at some point, and we fell in love, with Tahoe, and yeah, the rest is history, leading us to chiropractic, and our whole lives changed. So that's it in a nutshell.
So I want to hear your version of how you and Stu met. So Stu, a lot of people hear him talking from the stage, and I know that's not really your thing. But so we sometimes only hear one version of the event. So how do you recall you meeting Stu and the events that led up to where you are now?
Well, I don't know what ties this world together, whether I believe in, fate or whatever you call it, but we were meant to be. Out of the millions of people, we came together. I mean, we were both pretty unconscious in our college days and had no idea what life could be about, and, just into crazy stuff. And somehow through all that, we recognized in each other that, I think we've been here before, those parallel lives and past lives. And we've been here before and we've done this dance countless times, and let's give it a try. And somehow, even being unconscious, we were led to, like I said, chiropractic, and who knows how and why, fortuitous, coincidental, events. And yeah, so
you met Stu before he studied chiropractic?
yeah. So we met in college. So that was, if you really want to figure out how old I am, 70, 77, 75. And wasn't until we got married in 80. So it's 5 years of insanity. And we didn't get to chiropractic till graduating in 86. And didn't really get to chiropractic principle until I don't know how many years after that. But so yeah, it was
that gives me an interesting timeline. I hadn't appreciated the duration of that. You guys were together before chiropractic, and then obviously we're together whilst you were studying.
Okay.
And
so we both worked in the casinos, and I was a poker dealer. So how's that for a past life?
I know. Wow, it's amazing. And was that in Tahoe? So you'd come back to do that. That's where you used to. And then, so you were a poker dealer, and then what kind of? I mean, I think I'm assuming Stu kind of got got the calling to go into chiropractic. And was that similar for you at the same time, calling to go
And
into
I
that
don't
sort of
even know
area,
if
or were
it
you
was.
just kind of happy to go along with his journey?
I kind of was happy to stay as a poker dealer because I was making a lot of money. and But yes, I was supportive of his journey, and it wasn't until maybe the last year that I started doing massage. I became a massage therapist, and so I got my own experience of working with energy, and kind of getting in touch with things beyond what I could see and what seemed to have reality. So, then we went into our own clinic, and I always worked with Stu right from the start, you know, uh, being the one that held the clinic together. We never called it a clinic. I don't know if that's it's weird in my lips. Safe Haven Chiropractic was our healing center, but again, that
safe
didn't
safe
happen.
haven, yeah.
That didn't happen for maybe 7 years after we first started, because we knew nothing about chiropractic except that it was good for low backs and headache pain. So it was an evolution of going to various uh, places like Parker, meeting Sigafus, and I always went along for the ride because there was something in there. I don't know. We were just partners, and I wanted to be the best partner in the office, and gradually we both evolved to getting beyond headaches and low back pain, and realizing that chiropractic was so much more. So that was my role, to be
And
the
I'm
education.
I'm curious to find out. So when you started before massage, had you ever had some kind of experience, perhaps in nature, where you felt a different level of connection, or so it was only when you got the hands on that something started to tick for you?
So we moved out into Tahoe, and all of a sudden life just slowed down, and I started noticing the external environment around me, and listening to the birds and noticing the flowers. And so while we were getting into this chiropractic thing, then I also started getting into herbs, and how herbs would be beneficial for my body, as looking at my body as wholeness. And I started using herbs as medicine, food medicine, and making tinctures and making oils. And so I started getting my hands dirty and just really going in that way. And like I said, the animals started speaking to me, although I didn't quite understand their language. The trees started speaking to me. All I knew was that I just felt something, you know. And so every step took me closer to this place where I inhabit now. The being that I am now, that has a wide or open heart and coexists in the world and listens for the messages that I'm hearing, from the plants and the animals and the rocks and the trees, and all that, just kept getting more aligned through chiropractic, even though I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what was happening. So
Wow. And the you say the animals and the trees were speaking to you. What were the kind of things they were saying? Were they said, or were they felt? Or I'm always curious as to how people appreciate nature in that way.
well, like, take Blue Jay was my first teacher here, and it squawks a lot. In fact, it squawks so loud sometimes that you'd have to leave the area because it's just not peaceful anymore. And then, quite a few years later, I came to know that Blue Jay is the watchdog of the forest, and their
Mm.
squawking is a message to all the other creatures, saying, something foreign just walked into this big thing. I don't know what it is. This big human thing walked into our forest, and be on the alert. So when I heard that message in my later years, then I translated it to Blue Jay was telling me I had to be a watchdog. in my own life, that it was my job, if I chose to accept it, to alert the people around me to maybe a bigger perception of life, and or even like it took like writing letters to the editor. Like when I saw some doctor, and I was just going through our memory book the other day and I saw this. I was like, wow, this letter to the editor was really good. I was like, hot stuff then.
You're on fire.
So some doctor had written about medicine being necessary for migraines. And I had always been a migraine sufferer until chiropractic helped me heal that. But also I discovered that it wasn't, yes, sometimes medicine is needed, first aid. And the bigger picture is migraines had to do with what was going on in my own life, where I had come from, my original family, and how my mind reacted to what was going on. And a lot of it had to do with anger. That there was so much anger inside of me, and the migraines were the only way it could come out. So even though I was like, I'm nervous, who am I to write this letter? Everybody will read it, but I wrote this letter telling people that there's a bigger picture here and just don't do medicine, don't do, drugs for your headaches. And that was like the beginning of my being a watchdog, and Blue Jay kind of inspiring me to listen to its voice.
To squawk out and find your voice.
Yeah. So
Brilliant. Wonderful.
we all have a voice, and it's pretty important. Especially in this day and age, in this world, there's a lot of information out there, and people are so overwhelmed by all the information. And maybe if I have one message, Tim, it's like to inspire people to come back to their hearts, to come back to this information that's inside of us, that is our truest wisdom speaking. And it comes from the natural world, that collective voice, the collective consciousness that's been around for so long. And it knows how to flow and be in harmony. And, it knows how to look at things from wellness and wholeness rather than, what's wrong and pieces. And so, yeah.
And there do seem to be so many voices, and I think social media, and it's just pouring it out the whole time. It's just voices, and so much discord because of those voices. And it's almost like all the blue jays are congregated into one patch of forest and are just going off. And it's truly deafening because everyone has a voice and everyone's kind of pitching in. And like you say, it's like, how do we get out of that cacophony and quieten that? And you mentioned going into your heart. And can you tell us a little bit more about what that means for you and how you've explored that process and how you utilize that in your personal life? And then I know you also on the people you coach in this area. So I'm sure you could give us some valuable insights into how we could perhaps follow in your footsteps, or you could lead us a little bit in what to look for and how to perhaps what to feel, or steps we can take to find that place. Because we all want to go there and we all want to be there, but sometimes we find ourselves stuck in the cacophony and shouting back.
Yeah. And I used to shout back a lot because it is empowering and it is important. And at some point, I realized that the energy that I was speaking out with was this. The words might have been different, the message might have been different, but the energy was still a violent energy. And so I was adding to that field of energy, of violence that prevails. And it had me looking at how can I deliver my message in a different way? Um, I love, there's a story of the 100th monkey. Do you know it?
I have heard it, but tell us.
That so inspired me. So it was an island in the middle of nowhere, and somehow they discovered scientists living on this island. Doesn't matter. That one monkey started using a tool or something, or dipping its water.
Washing sweet potatoes, because they get the sweet potatoes, and it was started to wash them before he.
And had never done that before.
Yeah.
And after a while, it kept doing that. After a while, some of the other monkeys around him started doing that. And after a while, maybe instead of one original monkey, there was 100 monkeys in the tribe that were doing this. And then they noticed, scientists on other islands, monkeys were doing this as well.
So without contact, they started doing the same thing.
Yes, yes. So for me, I want to be that 100th monkey. That's what inspires me to keep doing my heart work, to keep being my peaceful warrior self, sharing the message, but from heart, remembering that this person I'm looking at who might be doing a horrible thing against other people or against our planet, but within them is that same source of love. Within them is the same possibilities of love that happened to me, because I wasn't always like this, so it could happen to them. And I'm going to hold that possibility by continuing to look at myself, look at my own actions, look at my own words, look at my own thoughts. Where am I being unpeaceful? Okay, I'm going to work on that. And from that place, I'm going to share that with others. But I have to do the work on myself. So it doesn't matter if you're living in a city. It doesn't matter where you're living. And you could say you don't have nature around you. But even cities now are so wonderful that way. They have pockets of places, statues with water coming down, or parks, or just going outside when it's a little quieter. And you could do this in your own house. Your own house is your sanctuary, bringing in plants or whatever, bringing in pictures of animals that you love, and just working on coming to that quiet place within, that still place within that knows peace. And the way I work it with coaching and when we've been at workshops is we do meditations first. Like whatever I do, I usually start with a minute at least of just getting quiet. Come into your heart, breathing into your heart, bringing up feelings of positive energy, thinking about a time that you've had in your life when you felt connected to your own heart, connected to the world around you, connected to others, so that here I am being unpeaceful or upset about the world or upset about someone. I'm going to stop and just close my eyes, maybe put my hands on my heart, connect to my heart. My heart always knows. And it could bring me to a different perspective. Oh, this isn't about me versus them. We're all in this together. So that's kind of what I advocate and what I do. And even like for me, leading you through this in this minute, I'm feeling it now. I'm experiencing it.
And for those that aren't looking at the video, during that whole thing, Hillary had her eyes closed, and you could see her going into it. I almost wanted to close my eyes as well, but I was definitely breathing in. So yeah, and the way your voice is when you talk, it's super soothing, and I know you've done some audio and things like that. And so if possible, I'd like to put some of those on the show notes for people to access, and then also how to get hold of you if they feel that's something that they recognize but not quite sure how to get to that place. And Hillary has guided many people along these paths, so I would highly recommend taking her up on that, or exploring some of those paths with her.
I truly believe in seeking out somebody, whether it's me or whoever it is, because, like I told you, Tim, I was a mess. I was an absolute mess in my past life. I didn't like myself very much. I didn't like the world. I mean, I had anger. I just was a mess. And for some reason, I kept seeking out people, going to workshops, going to retreats, enrolling myself in a 4-year mystery school where we committed to exploring this inner landscape and transforming it. And there were so many people who saw me, who looked at me and saw the possibility of who I could be and were there for me. And that's all I'm doing is paying it forward. Because so many people were there for me, and we need that. It's almost impossible to do it on our own, even if you're, pretty intentional. You go out in the world, and it just kind of knocks you off of your intentions, and our brains are wired. We're so used to the habits of negativity, and you mentioned before, Tim, there's just so much cacophony that we're out there, and so we're just so used to focusing on that, and we just need somebody to remind us gently, lovingly, come back to this tool, or look inside. What do you hear? What do you feel? And it just helps to have somebody along with you on the journey. So at least I have found that to be so. And I've had Stu. I mean, Stu and I have been that for each other for over 30 years now. Or maybe it's been 40. Doesn't matter. But that's what we do for each other. We remind each other of who we want to be, and give.
I mean, that to have gone on that journey together, it just seems like just such an amazing thing. I mean, it's so seldom that I've encountered that people have walked a journey like the two of you had, in parallel. So many people sort of start and come off, and we see people separating or living side by side, but in slightly different ways, and supporting each other. But the way you guys seem to do it is so close and so intimate. It's amazing to be around and to witness, and that must have taken some effort too, or was that just love? That's just love bearing itself, or did it require a lot of self work on that too?
It requires the most work.
The most work. Yeah, it's always the most challenging. Those closest relationships, aren't they?
I mean, working on myself has been a constant work, and I'm by no means there yet, and it's just a constant work. And relationships are a constant work. So I think if I have one superpower, it's my intentionality, of holding to being committed to doing the work. Although I don't like the word work, because who wants to work?
What kind of word can we change that to?
Well,
doing
often
the thing.
I say play, but it doesn't feel like play either a lot.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of play involved. So
yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you always have a very kind of playfulness about you. And we went for the last time you and Stu were here in the UK. We went for a walk, and it was autumn, the fall, and the leaves were falling, and you picked up a bunch of leaves and you chucked them in the air, and you were sort of dancing, and look, it's raining on me, and you were dancing underneath it and skipping as a little child, I've only ever seen like young kids do. And it was really beautiful just to witness someone just being super playful and light with it.
So the work that I've done for myself, again, the years of breath work, freeing me up to allow silliness. Because somewhere as a child, I lost that for various reasons that we don't have to go into. And then it wasn't until as an adult that I regained that it's okay to be silly, and that is part of my wholeness. And so the chiropractic journey again helped to free that, out of my body. And being in nature just allowed me to recover what it meant to be as a child, that I didn't do any of that as a child. And so that's one of my favorite things to do, is to autumn, throw up the leaves. But in the wintertime, I sled outside my house, just, and and in summer I'm just running into as many waters as I can, just, so there's always something that I'm doing out in nature to nurture that aspect of me that I don't nurture too often, because I'm a pretty serious person. Oh, but I'm not a serious person. But it comes out that I'm serious when I'm teaching or when I'm with other people, and
No, no,
and
I've
there's
seen
only
I've seen both in both environments. When you're in a workshop and you've been serious, but there's always a playful element, or I always catch a twinkle in your eye, um, and then outside it's the other way. So I think you're pretty well
yeah.
balanced, and um, I think
I
so
have
many people are
gotten
missing that playfulness in their lives and in relationships. I'm like, yeah, I tend to the serious, um, and being playful is such a gift, isn't it? And I,
it's part of our birthright,
mm,
and for me, I've gotten more comfortable with being playful, or doing something that before might have embarrassed me, or when I've said something and, oh, that's wrong, or whatever, but I'm more comfortable in my skin now. And I think being out in nature allows us to relearn that, or unlearn what kept us from
yeah,
knowing that, and exploring that aspect of ourself.
seems to there's no judgment in nature. The trees aren't judging you for throwing leaves around, and the birds are laughing along with you. Um, so yeah, I love that, and I think we can all learn or lean into that a bit more, being silly, and being playful and teasing. I think it's such a nice, teasing and jesting, and I think it's just so nice to be around that, isn't it? We all like to be in that kind of happy, joyful environment. Um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, that's one of the things I want to kind of segue back to something. You spoke a little bit about anger, um, and I was reflecting earlier this week. Actually, I saw a quote about some some superpower in business saying that if someone doesn't get angry, he won't hire them because they've got no passion. And it just struck me. It was like, wow. So you can only identify passion through anger. And I know that particularly men don't have that many resources, or actually allowed to have resources other than one of them being anger. I think you're
Yeah.
allowed to be horny and angry. I think that's the two things you're allowed to be. It's socially acceptable. And so, particularly for men, and I'm assuming for women too, is like if you and I think perhaps in my family we had a lot of that. If something was passionate, if we were talking about something, it got heated and there was a lot raised voices, and then coming to the UK, and I would get animated about something and start talking loudly, and people were like, "Why are you so angry?" I was like, "I'm not angry.
Yeah.
I'm just passionate."
Yeah.
And so, how do I, or other people who perhaps resonate with some of those words, how do we untangle passionate and anger, and you mentioned violent, and so when I was in, I would say, confrontational spaces, even in a debate or a discussion, when it got a little bit confrontation, you know, I never thought of the word violence, but maybe it was certainly confrontational. Um, so how could you help me unpick some of that, or um, maybe it's just noticing it when I do raise my voice, or
Yeah. Yeah. That's a sad aspect of our world, Tim, isn't it?
mm,
What you just shared about the leader not wanting to
mm,
hire anybody. I mean, and that's so normal. It's accepted as normal. So it's okay to be angry. Anger serves a purpose. It motivates us to go out into the world and share our voice when we see something that's not right. When we see someone doing some violence against people or the planet, we have to speak up. So it's just noticing, though, asking ourselves, how do I want to present this anger? And usually we can present it in a way that is a bridge to understanding. If I'm upset at you because you just said something, we'll use race, right? You said something about another person of color. I want you to hear my words, right? I want to maybe understand what's behind your anger. Is it fear? Are you afraid that you won't have a job? Are you afraid your family isn't safe? So there's real heart issues underneath somebody's anger through words that comes out. And if I'm going to come out with more anger through my words, I'm sabotaging what I want to happen, which is a bridge for change. So unfortunately, though, it takes a lot of work. Again, there's that word. It takes a lot of work and commitment to channeling anger into a different kind of language. One where we talk about, what are you feeling? What are you needing? This is what I feel when you yelled at me. This is, I got scared. I closed up. And we can start having a dialogue, and the other person will, that wasn't my intention. So now we've got a conversation going. So what can we do about this? Well, let's look at what your needs are. Let's look at what my needs are, and see if we can satisfy both of them, or at least some of them. But it takes an acknowledgement that anger is hurtful and violent.
So if I heard you correctly, is first kind of receiving the information and then telling them how that made you feel, because that's your how you perceive that. And they might go, oh, good, I wanted you to feel that way. And then, but at least you've been honest about it, and they've been honest about it, and then you can and perhaps take it from there. And I think maybe it's our reaction. We can be angry and be affronted by something, but we can perhaps respond in a different way. And I think
one of my mentors,
for me, that's about not saying something, because my immediate reaction is to go, back at you, and defend myself or defend a position.
You could do this, though, because you are a man of heart. One of my mentors, Marshall Rosenberg, taught me that before we engage in a conversation so you've just told me what you want me to know, and before I tell you what I want you to know, I have to not share my voice. And it would be more helpful if I gave you compassion. If I listen to you with the ears of my heart, as I say, as he said, that's where I got it from, and you spouted your anger at me, and I might come back with, so you feel upset that people of color are coming into your neighborhood? Yes. So you're afraid they may take over your jobs? Yes. But by my giving you this compassion, even though I don't agree with what you're saying, but I'm giving you compassion for the feelings of fear and uncertainty that you're experiencing. And then when you hear me doing that, you're going to, at some point, you're going to go, you're going to just lower that energy field of anger and be more open to hear what I have to say.
And they feel heard.
That's what heard. A need we all have to feel heard. They feel heard,
right? And then, like you say, they would have got rid of that build up, and then there's this de-escalation, I guess, because the steam's kind of passed, is vented, and now I guess that's a good word, venting, because it's vented, and then there's that before the next pressure builds is an opportunity to build a bridge, as you say.
And then, I might have to stop before, like, I might have to take a moment where this other person doesn't even know and just go within, connect with my heart and give myself compassion, for what I'm being spewed at, the energy I'm receiving and how I want to respond and I just responded in a way I didn't want to. Okay, stop, give myself compassion. So there's a lot going on that we could do. We can always make a choice for love. Always. It's just not the easiest choice sometimes. But it becomes easier. It becomes easier the more that we go down that avenue.
Yes, the more we practice that and the more we become aware of when we're not that, and as you say, coming back, and like any practice, even a meditation practice, it's always about coming, your mind's going to go off. We're going to get triggered. Something's going to happen. It's about coming back, right? So is becoming more expert at doing that. And I guess if you're going to be expert in one thing, you might as well try that.
The other way never worked for me. It wasn't working and I still kept doing it. You mentioned anger. There's something empowering about anger, right? When I let my anger out at the world, there is a powerful feeling about that. But there's also a very big energy drain to it. There's a side effect to it, like with medicines. There's always some side effect that most of us don't look at. And when I started realizing what the side effect of anger was, it's like, okay, I don't want any more of that for myself or in the world.
And do you think anger expressed is better or worse or whatever than anger not expressed, kind of retained? So you're angry, but you push it down, right? It's like,
yeah, that's not good either.
Yeah.
So anger expressed is definitely better. And there are healthy ways to express our anger, Go to a pillow and scream into your pillow or just find a friend, a safe friend that you could vent to, and don't let it go on for hours. Vent for, it only takes a little bit, And then the important thing is ask myself, what do I want to focus on now? Because again, if I keep on focusing on my anger, it just becomes this long train of car after car. And who knows where it's going to take me into the world we have now. And that's not working for anybody.
And I suppose that segues really nicely for me into the breath work that you mentioned earlier. And so I've done a number of breath works with you and Stu, and transformational is the word I use, because when we do breath work and the type that you and Stu do in the sort of holotropic model.
Don't say that; they'll get upset.
No. Okay, well, active breathing.
We do Maitri breath work.
Maitri breath work. You trained in Maitri, or any kind of active breathing, and it allows us to get rid of things that we don't even know that are holding us back, or things that we're retaining. So some of that, and I've seen that, certainly had it myself and seen it with other people, is that repressed anger that we've pushed down, and that almost allows that to come out in a very safe way. And just as like other emotions that may have been suppressed, like grief, or and even joy that we've thought maybe wasn't appropriate, or anything that we sometimes have pushed down. And when we do this kind of practice, and we have people guiding us that can lead us in their way, it's so amazing to be able to get rid of some of that stuff and not even knowing that you had it, which is really interesting. And so, can you tell us a little bit about the Maitri breathwork and how you went about that and what drew you in?
Well, again, it's it's from a more holistic looking at ourselves, that there's nothing wrong with us. We're perfect just the way we are. And we needed our anger or our sadness or whatever it was. It served us in many ways as we were growing up. It helped us survive in a lot of instances. Or it just helped us to get through whatever it was. And so it's about befriending all these pieces. It's about, again, coming back to the heart and allowing love to enfold us, to enfold all these pieces, all these places in our mind that we thought was wrong with us, to gently nudge the where it's taken root in our bodies, not like surgically cut, slash, remove, but just gently, like a gentle flow of water. Just, it's okay. They're there, like a mother would rub a child. It's okay. And it dislodges and love takes the place. And for me, it was about learning to love myself as these awarenesses came to light through the breath, learning to love myself in all these horrible, or as I imagine them to be horrible places, with all these monsters I had, with this monster face I showed the world. I mean, oh my God, what was dislodged, Tim? And I know you've experienced it. We all experience that. The things we're hiding in our head about ourself. And it just let me love myself and to use those pieces in a more healthy way, like the anger, to use it to share with people. Yes, I was afraid to share about chiropractic. Yes, I was afraid to talk to people about anything. But because I had this anger, I directed it to be able to talk to people rather than inwardly directing it and causing my migraines, or outwardly directing it and making someone feel bad about themselves. So breath work in that way, from a place of love, oh, it's so freeing, and
Yeah, and
again,
I can only talk from my own experience and having some of the experience I've had. And I think the first breath work was pivotal with you. I didn't know what to expect. I'd gone to this thing and I'd heard Stu talk, and I wanted to go to one of these seminars, and I didn't know, and you were there, and you guys were leading the breath work, and you came up and you said something to me, and off I went, and I was just in tears. I just sobbed, and it was like I didn't know I was holding all this grief. And I didn't know what the grief was for. I have ideas now what it might be, but at the time there was there was nothing attached. It was just sheer grief, and got rid of that. And then for a couple of days afterwards, I walked around with this emptiness in my kind of midriff, my solar plexus. It was just kind of like something was missing. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It just wasn't there. And I said to Stu, "What does that do?" And he said,
was missing.
Something was
used to that being
was
lodged
so used
in you.
to that. And it was literally physically missing. There was a space inside, and I was like, "What do I do with this?" And he said, "Well, just let it be, and it'll just fill up, And it has.
I said that.
No, you didn't say. Stu said that because I'd been on a call with him afterwards. But it was like I just remember that physical sensation. It was something was missing. Something had gone. So incredibly powerful stuff. So I'd encourage any of the listeners who haven't done something like that to really lean into that if you have the opportunity, and if you have that intention. I know that's going to show up on your radar. So
right.
With
And
that in mind, if one of the places that you can do that is the chiropractic from the heart that Hillary and Stu lead, and they do that in the UK, they've done in Europe, and also in America. So we know got people listening all over the world, and even going to Australia this year, I think. So it's not just for chiropractors, and you I'm going to leave the information in the show notes so you can see what their itinerary is. If you've felt drawn to anything Hillary's had to say, or something's touched you in a way, please reach out to her and to myself if we can guide you in any way. So Hillary, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your journey and sharing from your heart. We, I love and appreciate you, and thank you for everything you're doing in your community and with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for your passion. Very, very appropriately shared with the world. So
Thanks. We'll see you
keep
soon.
on knocking them alive.
So for those of you who are interested in attending the Chiropractic from the Heart workshops, or play shops as they call them, with Stu and Hillary, I have the dates for you. So there's in Barcelona, 11th to 12th of April. This is 2026. And then in Milton-Keynes in the UK, the week after, the 18th and 19th of April. And then later in the year, 31st of October into November, they will be in Australia, and there's also a possibility of another date in New Zealand after that, which has still to be confirmed. So do yourselves a favor, do your heart a favor, do everyone around you a favor, and go to one of the Chiropractic from the Hearts. Before I sign off, I just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing this episode. And remember, if you want to be more of the natural you, you're going to have to listen to your heart.